All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Hey everyone, happy Tuesday and good evening. My name is Brandon Rodriguez Toronto. I am our Associate Director of National Recruitment for the Mid-Atlantic. So I'm not based in the Cleveland area, unfortunately, but I am based in the Mid-Atlantic where I recruit students from the DC, Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia area. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. I'll go ahead and pass it along to my colleague Inez.
Hi, and my name is Inez Lariano, and I'm the Senior Associate Director of Student Enrollment and Financial Services. And today our focus is going to be what specifically is included on the FAFSA and what you will need to complete the actual application. So within the past few years, there were some inconsistency in regards to when the FAFSA was made available. So it switched a couple times based on the updates that were occurring, and so forth. But this year, we are pretty confident to say that the actual application will be open on October 1st. So, which is coming up really soon. So October 1st is when we believe that the application will be made available. Um, our priority deadline here at John Carroll University will be is February 1st. So that's a priority deadline in regards to you being able to receive your award letter in the mid-February timeframe. So in order to go ahead and receive that award letter during that time frame, our priority deadline is going to be February 1st. So what is included on the application? On the application, we are looking at, or the FAFSA is looking at the collects standard demographic and financial information from the student and the family. What that means is that in most cases, the IRS information, so the taxes that you had filed, is automatically going to be input into the FAFSA by utilizing your consent. So in the beginning of the FAFSA, it is going to ask you for your consent to be able to transfer your information directly from the IRS to the FAFSA, which eliminates you from having to look at the tax form and inputting the information on your own. This will then allow the calculation of the SAI, which is the Student Aid Index, to be calculated to determine what eligibility you may have beyond your merit scholarship. So in order to complete the FAFSA accurately, there are certain things that you need to be prepared to provide. So you need to understand who is required to complete the FAFSA. You need to understand the information that is required and collect the documentation that's needed, and then create a federal student aid account for each contributor to the FAFSA. So in order to determine who specifically is required to be on the FAFSA, you need to know if the student is considered dependent or independent. So in most cases, unless your student is able to answer the following questions as a yes, they are going to be considered dependent. So that is that your student is 24 years of age, they're married, it may be a veteran, a grad student serving on active duty, have dependents, including a child that they support, have no living biological or adoptive parents, are a ward of the court, have been in foster care, or have been in legal guardianship or emancipated by the court. If the student has responded or answered yes to any of these questions, then that means that they are considered an independent student. In those cases, then just their information is required. Unless they are married, then it would be the student and their spouse. If the student has answered no to all of those questions, that means that they are considered a dependent student in which they are going to require their parents' information. Now, to determine what parent is needed on the FAFSA, we utilized this screenshot to be able to answer some of those questions. So, in the case where the biological parents are together or living together, both of their information would be required. In a situation where a parent may not be, the biological parents are not together, then you need to determine who supports the student the most. So in most cases, if you say that a student, one of the parents are supporting their child 51% and the other one 49, you are going to provide the information of the parent that is providing 51%. If it's a situation where you say 50-50, then you are going to utilize the parent that is earning the most income. If based on that parent that you are utilizing, if that person is married, if that parent is married, they are required to utilize the biological parent along with that spouse. So that's how you determine who is utilized or who the person is that needs to be reporting their information on the FAFSA. In some cases, there could be a circumstance to where the student is unable to provide their parent information. So situations where students are unable to contact their parents or contacting would pose a risk, that would be considered an unusual circumstance. In those situations, the FAFSA does allow the student to answer a question that specifies that they have an unusual circumstance. Once the student has responded that they have an unusual circumstance, they would then be able to reach out to JCU to determine how to navigate that specific situation. So we may require additional documentation to show or prove the circumstances and determine what other steps need to be taken in order for that student to be eligible for the most aid that they can receive. So each contributor, including that would be the student and the parent, will need email addresses. So their individual email address. So you want to make sure that both parent and student are not utilizing the same email address. Social security number, and if for whatever reason a parent may not have a social security number, the FAFSA will give directions on what needs to be inputted to replace that social security number. You'll need 2024 taxes and then asset information. So with the asset information, you are not including the value of your home or your retirement. You do need to include both businesses and farm value. You need to include checking, savings, certificates of deposit, stocks, bonds, money markets, or mutual funds, I should say. So that is what is included in regards to the asset information that needs to be reported on the FAFSA. Now, in order to begin the FAFSA, each person needs to have what we call an FSA ID. So the FSA ID is much like any password that you're utilizing for any other site that you have, whether it's your bank account or something along those lines. So the FSA ID is an account with the username and password combination that allows the students and parents to log in to studentaid.gov to identify themselves electronically to access U.S. Department of Education systems. So this is not only used for FAFSA completion, but it's also used for other sites that you need to navigate through the Department of Education. So both students and parents must create their own distinct FSA ID. So in the case where a parent has filed joint, you would be okay just creating both the student and one of the parents. If it's a situation where you're married filing separate, both parents and the student will have to create their own separate FSA ID. In order to utilize this, the Department of Education is going to verify the information provided. So they are going to verify both your social security number along with your name and your birthday. So You want to make sure that all that information is correct when creating the FSA ID because in order to utilize it, the information has to be verified and it has to be correct. So to create the FSA ID, which is the very first thing that you are going to do before completing the FAFSA, which you can even do now. So you do not have to wait until October 1st to create the FSA ID. You have the ability to go in and do that now so that you are all set and your information is verified. So to create the student aid, to create this, you would go to studentaid.gov and you would select create account. This is where you're specifically going to provide the name, date of birth, and social security number. You're going to enter a unique username. You're also going to enter your distinct email. Again, I just want to repeat because a lot of people try to utilize the same email address. So sometimes in certain cases, the student is utilizing parent email because they are trying not to utilize their high school email, but then the parent needs to use their email address, so it tends to confuse a few things. So you want to make sure that your student has a separate email address besides their high school email that they can utilize through this process. You want to enter a strong password. Remember, this is access to all your federal information. So you want to make sure that it's not a simple password that someone would be able to figure out. You're going to enter your mailing address, your mobile phone number, and then you're going to complete the challenge questions. A lot of the times, what you will notice is that through every login situation, they are going to verify or send you verification number to confirm that it is yours. So you need to make sure that everything you're inputting is correct because if they're trying to verify that you are who you are, then you're going to need to access either that phone number or that email address to be able to confirm. I did see one of the questions in regards to the confirmation of the parents. So in a case where parents are married, and they file joints, you would only need to have one parent with an FSA ID because since it's joint taxes, then only one person needs to input that information. So some tips for success in regards to being prepared is just to create the FSA ID account for each contributor. You need to collect the documentation and information needed for the FAFSA. So that is a situation that is your asset information, your checking account information, things such as that. So you want to have that. Determine who's required to be the contributors. So again, determining the parent that is being put on the FAFSA, determining whether or not you guys file joint or separate is a key to determining who needs to have an FSA ID and whose information is going to be needed. When your student is filling out their part of the FAFSA, they are going to list the contributors. So they are going to list mom and dad if that's the situation, or they're going to list mom and stepdad, or just mom, depending on the circumstances. So that's how you'll know whose information will need to be required. What's going to happen is once the student completes their part, then the parent is going to receive an email saying that the student completed their part and now the parent has to go in and do their part. And that's when that parent will need to have their FSA ID ready to go so they can complete their part. Now, in most cases, both contributors are going to receive the email, but if you file joints, only one of them has to complete that portion. If you filed separates, then both will have to go in at a certain point. So my suggestion is have one go in, complete their portion, and then after that's been completed, then the other parent go in and complete their part. You want to avoid common FAFSA areas. Sorry, I'm trying to read the. Um, Avoid common FAFSA errors, so ensuring the social security number matches is correct with the name. So I know that people are like, how do I mess up that? But a lot of people mess up the social security number and the name not matching. Double check what the social security card says and match it specifically how it's stated on the social security card. If you're a junior, you want to add a junior. You want to make sure that the numbers are correct, including only parental information that is required. So you only want to make sure that you're putting in the parents' information that is needed. You want to make sure to have the assets and investments. Again, I want to stress that assets do not include your retirement or your home value. You do want to include rental or vacation property, but you do not want to include car or boats. You do want to include any business or farm value. Okay. Um, let me see. So you want to remember that your student is only going to complete one application. So you're only going to complete one FAFSA. So you can list up to 20 schools on the FAFSA. So you do not need to complete individual FAFSAs for each specific school. You just need the one FAFSA, and that specific FAFSA will go to the specific schools that you have listed on the FAFSA. And then you want to make sure that you start a folder for all your financial aid information. And then if there are any special circumstances, so for example, if there is a situation in which you maybe in the year of 24, because again, this is looking at your 24 taxes for the 25-26 school year. So if your income information has changed drastically from 25 on what you're filing for 25 in comparison to what you filed in 24, you want to reach out to these schools. You want to reach out to us to let us know the circumstances so we can see if there's any change that can be made to the FAFSA to reflect your current situation. Any other special circumstance, maybe a change to the marital status. If your medical expenses or dental expenses are high, we can look at those. So those are all considered special circumstance that we can look at and determine if we can make any adjustments to see if we can award any additional aid. So your next steps are going to be that basically we'll be in touch. So through every piece, I know your student is going to get bombarded with a bunch of emails. They need to try to go through that on a daily basis just to see what they can eliminate and what they need to pay attention to. Your student will receive a lot of good information through that in regards to deadlines, in regards to maybe additional scholarships they may qualify for. So they have to manage that in some manner. You want to stay connected. So we are available to assist with any questions on the application. You definitely can visit our website, but we are here, whether it's email us, give us a call, or stop in. We are here to assist. And then the full awards, remember, will be released sometime in mid-February. So I know Brandon's going to touch on the admission application and talk about what comes next after that. But just remember that the FAFSA priority deadline is February 1st so that you can receive an accurate award come mid-February.
All right. Thank you so much, Inez, for the presentation. We're going to transition to a small little Q&A here. I know you've all been utilizing both the chat and Q&A feature, but if you could please place the questions into the Q&A session, that'll be great. And as I'll go ahead and go through these Q&A questions and ask you live, is that all right?
Yes, that's fine.
All right, thank you so much. So this first student has a child registered at a different college already. and they're asking if they'll need to create a new account or if they're just simply adding their new senior into their original account.
No, that is a great question. So if you have a valid FSA ID already, you are going to continue to use that as a parent. Your student will have to create their own FSA ID, but you do not need to create another FSA ID. The same FSA ID that you are utilizing for your other student, you would utilize for this student as well. So in this case, your student is the only one that would have to create their FSA ID.
All right, thank you. So this next question is on a similar line. This parent has a studentaid.gov account because they have student loans. I'm assuming they'll be able to continue to use the same account.
That is accurate, yes.
Thank you, Inez. This next question is asking, am I understanding it correctly that if parents file jointly, only one needs to add info into their FAFSA, but the asset information will be all assets under either parent, correct?
That is correct. So you would put assets combined with husband and wife, so with the parents, and the information from the taxes, since you filed jointly, will automatically be inserted into the FAFSA with just your FSA ID and password.
Thank you. This question may require an email, but I'm going to ask it live just in case. This parent is asking for clarification with divorced parents. They're asking if they should report their child support since their father's income is higher, but they are primary residency and claim the student each year.
Okay, so in that case, and it may be an email to dig in a little deeper, but in a case where a divorce situation, you would need to determine what parent you're utilizing on the FAFSA. So let's say mom, I'm not sure if mom or dad is claiming, and it really, in that case, doesn't necessarily mean who claims them, it's who supports them the most. So if mom is the one that's going to say that they support the child more, but then receives child support from dad, there's going to be a question that asks if they're receiving child support. So in this case that I'm thinking, it would be mom as the main supporter, utilizing her information on the FAFSA, but then having to include the child support that dad pays.
Thank
And
you,
if that
Inez.
doesn't answer the question, you may want to email us and we'll be able to respond a little bit more based on the specific circumstances.
And before I forget, what is the financial aid email, just so I can make sure the chat has it.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's enrollment@jcu.edu.
Perfect. All right, enrollment at jcu.edu for any financial aid concerns. I'll continue with the Q&A chat here. Someone is retiring at the end of the year, and their combined income will change drastically in 2026. Their son will be starting college in the fall of 2026. How will that change anything? I'm assuming they'll just simply refile each year, as students usually do.
Yeah, so in that case, since you are utilizing the 24 tax return, you would have to get a hold of us to tell us about your situation, and we would give you a direction on what we call a special circumstance or unusual circumstance appeal, where you would explain the circumstance and the loss of income based on the retirement that you are going to enter in 26 in comparison to what that income was in 24. So you want to continue to fill out the FAFSA as is, utilizing the 24 tax return, but then you want to notify us of the change to the income so that we can go ahead and look to see if we can make any adjustments.
All right, thank you. I just went ahead and answered a question live. It was a repeat regarding um, second and third children. So just reminding students that they will need their own accounts, their own FAFSA IDs, but their parents will continue to use the same account that they've been using. Let me see here. Someone else asked about retirement, so the answer is the same. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just filing through these here. And you should fill the FAFSA out before, what's the deadline in as? It's February 1?
So the priority deadline is February 1st.
Okay. So to the attendee that asked regarding their parents retiring, remember that this current year's FAFSA will use last year's taxes. So you won't have to worry about waiting until your parents graduate in 2026. So you go ahead and file on October 1st when that opens, and by February 1st, which is recommended, so you can get your financial aid package on time so you're not stressed out waiting for financial aid letters to come. This one person asked if they're required to fill out the FAFSA. They have two older children who do not qualify for need-based aid. Inez?
We highly encourage, at least for the first time here at John Carroll University, you complete the financial aid application. There could be additional JCU aid that could be awarded. So I always say to at least complete it the first year, and then we can discuss once the award comes out whether or not you need to do it every year after.
And then as will merit aid require the filing of FAFSA, or are all
No,
students reviewed for it manually?
yes. So the merit is automatically going to be awarded without the FAFSA.
Thank you, Inez.
Sure.
This student here, let's see, the students match. Someone asked, do the students match the Common App schools with the FAFSA 20 institutions?
So the Common App and the FAFSA do not communicate,
Yes.
like, so it doesn't, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they
two
don't.
separate things.
Yeah. Folks, make sure that when you're applying, when you're starting the Common App or the Coalition app for John Carroll or any college, that you're adding the colleges you're applying to both. I remember when I did my FAFSA a little over a decade ago that I was adding all of the colleges that I applied to both my Common App, their individual applications for the schools that weren't on Common App back then, and in my FAFSA portal. It's best practice to add those earlier, even the schools that you're not sure if you're not certain that you're applying to. So if there's a school out there that you're not sure you want to apply to, go ahead and add it to your FAFSA just to be safe, so it's not something that you forget about later. So we entered this one here. If both parents are married, filed taxes jointly, and live together, do both parents need a FAFSA account? You said that both will receive emails. How does a non-contributor parent get an email if not having an ID?
So what will happen is the student, because they list both contributors' email addresses, the system does not automatically know who has an FSA ID. So the parent just has to know specifically, okay, I'm the one with the FSA ID. So I'm the one that's going to go in and complete it based on us filing joint. Now, if there is no consequence in both parents having the FSA ID, so if you feel better off complete for both parents to have it, that's fine. Just make sure that you know whose is who when creating it.
Thank you. Now, this next question. Will John Carroll consider multiple siblings in college when awarding financial aid, as this is not directly reflected in the SAI number?
So there is the ability to make us aware through the appeal process, and we would look at that to determine what we can take into consideration as far as having multiple students in college at the same time.
Yeah, I did want to stress to everyone too that we are always here to work with students one-on-one after the financial aid packages are released. So that is a conversation that you may have with your financial aid counselor and admission counselor in the future after receiving your financial aid package. We received a specific question regarding a 457 account. This parent asked if they need to declare a volunteer 457 account under FAFSA. It's an Ohio deferred comp separate from pension. Are you aware of anything like that?
I am not, but if it's separate from pension and considered retirement, then I would say no. But I'm not sure if it's retirement, then no.
All right, perfect. And I did look it up really quickly. You're correct. The contributions you make to the plan are counted as untaxed income. So it's saying that you do not need to report the value of those accounts. This person says, let me see here. Someone asked if they own a second home that they don't live in, don't rent, and is not a vacation home. I'm under the impression that it should be listed on their form, given that it is property that they own. Correct, Inez?
If it's property that you own that you can earn, Yes, because there's a potential to earn. Now, when you're figuring out that number, though, if the house you bought, let's say you bought it for 300,000 and you still owe 200,000, then the worth would only be 100,000. So you need to make sure that you have those numbers in that calculation so you're inputting the correct information. So if it's not fully paid off, then you want to do the calculation in regards to what amount is technically paid off for that home.
Perfect. And I'm seeing a couple of questions regarding 529 and 504 plans, asking if students should continue to apply for financial aid and if there's any negative aspect as to applying for financial aid. Um, I'm not sure of what the 529 number means. And as do you have any details on the 529 or 504 plan? A couple
Yeah,
of
so that is basically a savings, a college savings for their student, which is very good. There is no consequence to filling out the FAFSA, even if you have a 529. So, as I stated before, I highly encourage you to complete the FAFSA at least one time to determine if you are eligible for anything else related to anything that John Carroll can award. So my suggestion is to complete that, but it will not negatively impact the 529 plan. Now, the FAFSA does require that you put the 529 if the 529 is in the student or parent's name. In situations where the 529 might be in grandparents' name, then it does not have to be reported. Uh, but if it is in the student's name specifically or parent's name, it does have to be reported.
And I'm just answering this in the chat, but someone is simply asking if there's a benefit to completing the forms and filing the FAFSA earlier. I'm just rectifying that there isn't a real benefit guaranteed. It's just the fact that they'll receive an on-time financial aid package and will be able to have that much earlier rather than around the corner right before May 1st.
And it does benefit you in regards to if there's aid that we're awarding and we have a set amount. If that aid is then given to students and all of the amount is exhausted, then it would have went to the person that completed the FAFSA earlier. So I would say completing it by February 1st at least would be beneficial.
And just so folks know, February 1st is a common priority deadline for several institutions. Some have early or mid-January deadlines, but the majority do have deadlines of around February 1st, just to ensure they have enough time to process everyone's FAFSA and provide financial aid letters to everyone on time. So keep that in mind too. Now let me see here. We have similar 529 questions. Someone's asking if the FAFSA process is user-friendly like TurboTax, and if it helps recognize what you should or shouldn't report and or include or exclude.
It's going to give you direction. It's not going to go into deeper detail. So if you put like an asset number, it's not going to say, did this include? So it's user friendly in a sense where it'll lead you and tell you, give you some pointers, but not as user friendly as TurboTax, where it'll ask you more questions based on your response.
Perfect, thank you. Someone asked if personal Roth IRAs or 401k plans count as assets. Um, I'm assuming not.
Not retirement.
Okay, that's what I thought. And someone asked if they are required to include the value of any 529s in their assets.
Yes, so if it is in parent name or student's name, yes. If it is in grandparent's name, since some people do it in that manner to where the grandparents have it set up for them, then no. But if it is in parent and student's name, then yes.
Awesome. All right. So that looks like the end of our questions here. Let me see. Let me just make sure. Someone just asked, they have another child already in college and they filled out the application for him, and they're mentioning that they have to complete it for both. As we mentioned earlier, someone asked this question at the beginning. Yes, each student will require their own individual FAFSA account, as each student's circumstances, each student's college list may differ. But parents' accounts will be the same, and when your student inputs your information, those accounts will should just naturally pop up. And as you have anything else to add to that?
No, I don't.
Alrighty. Well, this is good. Let me just pop through the chat real quick, just in case we miss any questions in here. We answered these. The only question I'm seeing in the chat that I'd love some insight on is how FAFSAs may be applied to 3+1 programs such as engineering, where students are granted a master's at the end of that.
So with the 3+1, now it depends on if um the 3+1 is inclusive of another institution, which that's what I understand it to be. Um, then the FAFSA would have to be completed for both institutions at the time that you're transferring to that institution. So my understanding, and I apologize because I don't know too much about the specific program, but if you start here and then let's say transfer to case, then the FAFSA would have to be completed for case to determine eligibility there. So you need to pay attention to those schools because I think CASE also requires the CSS profile they used to. So it's an additional application to determine eligibility there.
Perfect. Thank you. Let me see here. Oh, this is a great question. Students are asking if the information provided through the FAFSA could potentially impact the students' merit-based awards. In other words, are the determinations for merit scholarships impacted by FAFSA information, or are those based on academic performance? I believe it's just academic performance,
That
correct?
is correct. And I apologize for not going into deeper detail about that in the beginning. I know Brandon's going to touch on that a little bit in his slides. So no, once the application is submitted, your student will receive the acceptance along with the merit award at that time. So the FAFSA has no negative impact on the merit award. That is strictly based on your student's accomplishments. Um, that they had in high school.
Perfect. Let me see here. Let me just answer a question in the chat here through text. Someone asks that they have a property that's co-owned. How would they calculate an asset amount for that?
So that's difficult to answer. I think you would have to talk to the person that's co-owner and determine what portion is owed. So if it's worth 500,000 and you guys say that it's an even split, 50-50, then I would say one of you would do the 250,000 and the other one would have um the asset of the other 250,000, but that is strictly dependent on your conversation. I don't know if it's a 80-20 situation, 50-50 situation, so you would have to determine that with the co-owner.
Perfect. Now, someone asked, let me just ask these last two questions real quick before we transition on. Does JCU have a monetary incentive or grant for completing FAFSA their freshman year?
Um, Currently, I do not believe that there is an incentive, but it's just to determine because a lot of families may say I may not qualify, but it's just to determine whether or not you would qualify for anything additional.
Wonderful. I'm also not aware of anything, so that should be right. And last question before we transition here. Are you aware of the gross income or adjusted gross income cutoff that are usually there to qualify for federal aid? And if JCU has an income level cutoff where we would not consider students for additional aid?
No, because it's in combination with household size, AGI, so there's not necessarily a cutoff. We do look at the SAI results based on the calculation that the FAFSA has, but we can't say that there's any specific cutoff.
All right. Well, thank you, Inez. We are all set on these questions for financial aid. As we mentioned in the chat, financial aid can be emailed at enrollment@jcu.edu for any further questions that may be specific to your case. Another great resource is also your high school counselor if they're available for financial aid questions, or your designated FAFSA person in your school or in your community. Definitely look into that and see if there's someone that you're even able to get one-on-one help with. Aside from that, though, Inez, thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you, everyone.
All right. Now we're going to continue on to a quick little section for JCU and what we have to offer and just some things about what makes us special as our college. So, just to begin with, JCU is rooted in academic rigor, experiential learning, and personal formation. Our students are challenged academically through rigorous coursework where they work hand on hand in 11 to 1 average classes. So, they do have access to the professors to support them academically. Our students gain real world experiences through internships, whether in the Cleveland area, which is home to 11 Fortune 500 companies, or through study abroad opportunities in numerous places, whether it's in Europe, Africa, South America. The world's their limit. And students also grow as individuals and leaders. Our students love leadership and service as a whole, and you'll get a sense of that after visiting campus in the future. As for our mission and identity, we are members of the AGCU network, which is the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities in Ohio. So we're in the University Heights area, which is just 20 minutes outside of Cleveland. But as you can see, there are AJCU colleges across the country and in the world. Uh, JCU as a whole, our Jesuit tradition really just emphasizes the whole person, the mind, the body, the spirit. And on campus, we focus on leadership, ethics, and service to others. And you'll see this through the classroom and the extracurriculars that students take advantage of here. On campus, we have three distinct colleges. We have the Bowler School of Business, which provides students with strong business networks and practical career prep, and we have the College of Health, which ties our Cleveland's healthcare sector together. So within the College of Health, we have programs in nursing and a few other medical areas too. And we also have the Cleveland Clinic in the area, which directly supports students with internships and shadowing opportunities during undergrad that'll set them up for success. And aside from that, though, we also have the College of Arts and Sciences, which is a more broad liberal arts foundation that offers students a little more flexibility into what they're studying. Aside from the colleges, we have a lot of student involvement, a lot of ways to get involved, over 100 ways, whether it's through fraternity and sorority life, STEM-related clubs and orgs, or through club and intramural sports. There are a lot of ways to get involved. We have organizations that cover academics, culture, service, and leadership. Our student involvement really builds our community. They build up leadership skills, and they create lifelong friendships because these folks are the ones that you're going to work with and live with and have a same alumni community with. So you will get involved and you'll get to know a lot of folks through the process. Overall, students are encouraged to explore passions outside of the classroom too, whether it's through service in the Cleveland area or service throughout the U.S. Folks will get involved everywhere in the Cleveland area. So slide 19 here, athletics. So we have 24 varsity sports and the North Coast Athletic Conference. We just joined the NCAC and we're really excited for this change. We are seeing a lot of students getting very involved with our athletics program here, and all of our games are accessible and free to students, and they're able to go see them on campus. And we also have the new Awe Center, which is our athletic wellness and events area. It's a new building and part of the investment into our athletic community here at John Carroll. Students also have a balance of athletics and academics with a lot of student support, whether it's through an advisor or through their coach, assistant coaches, and all that. They'll always be supported. And the nice thing is that non-athletes can also engage with athletics through cheering, clubs, and other traditions, or even our pep band and things like that. I touched on this earlier, but global education. So here's the story of Caroline Coleman, a graduating student, rising senior. Study abroad here, it allows students to have that cultural immersion, academic growth, and global perspective that you can't get outside of studying abroad. It really builds adaptability and community across cultures. I personally studied abroad during my time in undergrad, and it was the best time ever. I was in northern Italy, and during that time, I visited 13 countries, and it really released an appreciation for me to see the world and continue to grow my perspective on what's offered out there. And since then, I've been to dozens of countries and look forward to continuing to travel in my future. I know for certain that I always push students that regardless of what college you consider, hoping it's John Carroll, but if it's not, that you study abroad because it really does broaden your horizon in many ways. So, as far as things that are happening on campus here, JCU has a lively campus life. On campus, we have concerts, different cultural events, a lot of different traditions, and new facilities that students can take advantage of. Our community is very close knit and welcoming. If you visit on campus and you step foot on campus, you will feel it. You will see the sense of community in our dining hall, in common areas to residence halls, or even in our different academic departments or in our student-run coffee shop. So a lot of different things on campus, and there are a lot of ways for students to feel engaged and connected daily. We only have a little over 3,000 students and offer a lot of opportunities for students to get to know each other, whether it's through Streak Week, which is the first week of class, which is the first week the students are on campus during their first year, right before the first day of class, or just during our different holiday traditions, during our breaks or things like that. Students will get to know each other and really connect throughout the year. We even offer weekly common hours where students come together and really just explore different topics with faculty, staff, and other students in their community. Now, with on campus, you're wondering what's off campus. So, JCU, we're just 9 miles from downtown Cleveland. As you can see, pretty much a 15 to 20-minute drive. So, having that vicinity to downtown Cleveland gives students internship opportunities with the Cleveland Clinic, Deloitte, EY, Disney, Sherwin-Williams, the Cleveland Browns, pretty much a lot of different companies in the area, both local and global companies, of course. So students really just have opportunity to have a small campus feeling with big city opportunities, such as a Cleveland. And of course, we're close to Lake Erie, so you're really close to being able to just go sit at the water and really just soak in the views, see the sunrise. Really nice. And yeah, just in general, really great location in my opinion. And we're just 30 minutes from the Cleveland airport, which is fantastic. That just makes it really easy to connect globally and throughout the country. So your path to JCU, as we start to wrap up here, our step-by-step journey. Step one, of course, we want you to visit campus, and I'll get to more to why in a second. After you visit your campus during your senior year, we really want students to schedule a personalized visit, which gets you a chance to meet with the professors you want to, or meet with the coaches if you'd like, meet with students, have a personalized tour. We understand that as seniors, you really want to know more and you want to see and understand how you can truly fit into your college. So we definitely encourage you to schedule a personalized visit so you can start envisioning yourself on our campus. We always encourage students to apply by November 1st, which is our early action deadline. Applying early action is the best way to be considered by John Carroll. You will get the best consideration and you'll receive your decision before Christmas break, which is just amazing. So definitely apply by November 1st. We definitely recommend you start getting your Common App going. And we are also on a coalition app too. We encourage you to follow your FAFSA, which, as you know, opens October 1st and due February 1st. And of course, after, if accepted, we encourage you to celebrate with us at our acceptance day event at Celebration in the spring semester. That's a yearly tradition here, usually in March or April. So definitely look out for information around that once admitted. Aside from our admitted student events too, you may have some admitted student receptions in your area or in your neighborhood. So definitely follow our page to see if any of those will be in your area. And of course, you will get emails if that's the case. And of course, our National Commitment Day, we follow the May 1 deadline that we hope to see many of you at. And aside from that, though, families are guided through every way. So whenever you need help or have questions, reach out to your admission counselor because we're here to help. So the Common App and the Coalition app, as I mentioned, the application requirements are the standard. I personally always recommend students apply through Common App, especially applying as seniors. The Common App is shared by over 1,000 organizations, so that makes your application process a lot more accessible, not only for applying to John Carroll, but also for applying to other colleges. So as you're exploring other universities and colleges, I always encourage you to look and see if they're on a Common App, which if they are, perfect. It'll make your life a lot easier. It'll allow you to fill out less surveys and less questionnaires of your name, your email, etc. I always recommend not using your school email. I know Inez mentioned this for your FSA ID, but I also recommend it for your Common App as well, as a lot of colleges, a lot of high schools will block external emails from emailing them, especially let's say if you're at a county or at a public school, those emails may block external emails and they may erase your account over the summer leading up to your first year of college, making it hard for you to get those orientation emails that are going to be important and other details. So make sure you apply with an email that is not a school provided email, whether that's Gmail or things like that. I've seen people that have even made a special college application email for themselves. So that way they can filter that outside of their personal email. So that's also a suggestion. Our requirements, of course, we require the application. You have the standard essay, so there's no additional essay or additional short essay requirements that we have. We require one letter of recommendation from a counselor or a teacher. We require your official high school transcript, which will be shared with us by your counselor. And we are also test optional, and we have a no harm policy. So let's say you submit an SAT score that you're on the edge about, wondering maybe it's not competitive, maybe it is, I'm not sure, let me submit it. If that test score that you submitted would harm your chance of being considered for one of our merit scholarships, if that's the case, we will not use your test score. We want to give our students the best opportunities possible. So if you apply with a test score that may not give you the best consideration for one of our living learning programs or our scholarships, we will not use that test score. So that is something to keep in mind too. We also really encourage our students to have interviews with their admission counselors. There are a lot of ways to do those, whether it's through their scheduler page, where you just have a simple online conversation, or through a JCU near you event, which as our Mid-Atlantic rep, I know I have a couple through the DMV area this fall. So that's a nice way to be able to give a little bit more information as to what interests you in John Carroll and have a small conversation with these counselors. These conversations are not to be feel intimidating or anything. These are just casual conversations. So us as admission counselors can get to know you more and get to know you beyond your application. Now, aside from that, though, I know we had a presentation on financial aid, but just in general, the JCU, we're committed to affordability. So every single student will be considered and will receive a merit scholarship. So that is great. Our merit scholarships range from 18 to 31,000, and that's before any grants, and that's before our Discovery grants. The Discovery grant guarantees students $2,000 a year if they visit campus before February 1st. So if you haven't visited John Carroll, we definitely encourage you to do so. And if you're uncertain if that's on your schedule or if that's on your record, feel free to reach out to our office or to your admission counselor, and we'll be able to make sure that that visit's on your account. So make sure to visit campus for the Discovery grant. We have work opportunities both on campus and in our neighborhood. Just in our neighborhood, just down the street, there's a Whole Foods, a two-story Target, a lot of restaurants, a couple of bars in the area. So there are a lot of ways to stay employed during undergrad as well. And of course, loans are offered as needed, and that is something that our financial aid office will be able to support you with. And also, just important to rectify that all students will receive some sort of financial aid support, whether it's a merit scholarship, a grant, or work study. So keep that in mind too. And as I mentioned, we're always here to help. Each of you have admission counselors that are dedicated to you. So if you, for say, are from Maryland, Delaware, DC, or Virginia, or the West Coast, that's California, Hawaii, Alaska, If you're from Washington or any other West Coast country, or any other West Coast state, I'm your admission person. So I'm your point person. With other folks like Brian Sabbath, our Chicagoland rep, and a couple of other Midwest states. Danny's our New York rep, for example. Abby oversees parts of New England. We each oversee different parts of the country. So please look at our website so you can understand more as to who to reach out to for this additional help and who to schedule conversations with if you'd like to have an interview. And aside from that, though, thank you for your time. As a reminder, apply by November 1st. That is our important early action deadline. I like to say EA or no way. It just makes your life a little easier to get that decision before Christmas break. So you're able to have that decision earlier. So you're not having to wait until January, February, and so on. And of course, although November 1st is our primary early action deadline, we still review students after that, but we just recommend November 1st to have the strongest opportunity possible. And thank you again. Now, I'll go ahead and open up the chat. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them here and I'll answer them live. So someone asked if they can submit their October ACT scores after November 1st. That is correct. You can submit your ACT scores. However, keep in mind that merit review takes place a little later after your application. So if you receive those ACT scores a little after November 1st, you'll be okay. And you can always reach out to your counselor, letting them know after you send them, so we can be sure to consider them in a merit review. Someone asked is if merit scholarships of 18 to 31 per year or total for 4 years. It varies. Traditionally speaking, though, our merit scholarships are traditionally offered per year. So it's important to review your financial aid letter when you receive it in March to ensure you're aware of what the total package is. Someone asked if this session will be recorded and shared. Yes, it will. It will be recorded, and we are launching it on our new website that's being opened up soon. So this session will be made available, and we are actively recording it. Is there a list of specific JCU grants or scholarships available on the website? There is. Let me pull it up and put it in the chat for you. So here is our JCU scholarship opportunities. And it's important to remember that students will also have access to scholarship opportunities during their time in undergrad. So after seeing this question here, so after acceptance and merit scholarship award in November, the FAFSA is then used to determine need-based or additional scholarships separate from loans from government. The FAFSA is used to determine financial need, not merit scholarships. So students will be considered for merit scholarships separately, and it is not tied to the FAFSA. That's correct. So does JCU guarantee on-campus housing all 4 years of undergrad? Yes, we do. We are a residential campus, so our students will be required to live on campus all 4 years of undergrad. Thank you for asking that. I see you have a grant opportunity on the website if you have a grandparent that attended JCU. Is there a place on the Common App to note this for merit grant? I'm not sure if it's in the Common App. If it is not, and if you don't see it on your end, please reach out to your admission counselor to make note of that so we're able to add that to your profile. But as long as you're building up the relationship section, I believe there is this section in our John Carroll application, but definitely email the counselor if that is not the case. Thank you for that question. Someone asked, what determines what level of merit is offered? It is anything academic. So as far as academic goes, that varies. It could be the amount of APs you take related to the amount that your school offers. It could be dual enrollment. It could be your SAT or ACT score. Remember, if you don't submit an SAT or ACT score, or if your SAT or ACT score will negatively impact your eligibility, we will not consider it. So keep that in mind. We will use your SAT or ACT score if it does help you, though. So that is important to keep in mind. Let me see what determines what level of merit. Yeah, so basically that in the combination of the rigor you have, in combination with the grades, the letter grades that you've received. We do recalculate GPAs here as we are standard 4.0. and we'll be able to do that manually. So once you submit your transcript, we'll do that if needed to make sure that everyone is looked at evenly. Someone asked if 3+1 programs change the price of school. It can vary, it can depend. I know that master's level tuition may be different, and master's level tuition opportunities may be affected through graduate assistantships that can even lower the price. So it really varies, and I recommend reaching out to your counselor so they're able to provide more information as they can connect you directly with the college or with the program that you're considering so we can get you a more honest answer. And transparently, I started this role about 3 months ago, so I'm still learning the ropes with you all too. So, with that question, I recommend reaching out to your financial aid counselor or your admission counselor, as we'll be able to do the research to provide you with the right information. I don't want to give you the wrong information over the Zoom call here. And let me look back here. Yes, all right. So someone asked, can you talk about junior and senior living arrangements given that students have to be on campus all 4 years? So yes, so our on-campus opportunities vary from a traditional double where students have a sink and have a microfridge unit, closets. Students will always have a closet, dresser, will always have a desk, a chair, of course, and a bed to sleep in. That is the traditional format that we have on campus. But as students progress through their time at John Carroll, they'll slowly get access to suite style living, and then they'll slowly get access to apartment style living where they have a little bit more amenities that they can enjoy. I'll go ahead and drop information on our Res Life amenities here in a second. Res Life JCU. All right. Here is information on our housing options. There are a couple of JCU houses that are JCU managed that are slightly off campus, a couple of duplexes, and so on. And there's a Fairmount Circle apartments. So there are a lot of different options that students will have. Someone asked if there are singles available for freshman year. There are singles available, but they are on a case-by-case basis and are reserved for students with accommodations for them. But that is more of a Res Life question. And we will have a panel on Res Life later in the spring semester, believe in January, February. So definitely keep an eye out for that too. Let me see. Someone asked that they said they have a recommendation from a school counselor, or they are asking if a recommendation letter from a school counselor or core class teacher is better. Does it matter? We really recommend you to submit a letter on the person that you believe could speak most strongly on the student. If you'd like to submit a counselor and a teacher letter, we will consider both as well. So keep that in mind. I know that a lot of high schools vary. Some students are in high schools where there's a really large caseload of students and there's a large caseload of students to one counselor. So counselors may not be able to provide as may not know the student as well as a teacher would. So if that's your case and you only want to submit a teacher letter, you're more than welcome to do so. But we always recommend just submit both, as many colleges will require one from a college counselor and sorry, one from a counselor and one from a high school teacher or coach. So keep that in mind too. And someone mentioned that they have a personalized visit scheduled in October. Congratulations, you're gonna love it. They're asking if they still need to have an interview with an admission counselor. It's not required to have an interview with an admission counselor, but I recommend reaching out and asking to see if you're able to add one on with your admission counselor, as it just helps us have more information around your application and around you as a person. It really just gets us, it allows us as admission readers to know who we're reviewing a little bit more, aside from like a student who is just visiting, who we haven't gotten a chance to interact with and all. So we definitely recommend having interviews with counselors as that benefits both parties. Benefits you because you get to know more about John Carroll, and it benefits us as admission readers because we're able to really get to know you more. And as you're reading your application, we're knowing who we're reading into. And someone asked if they require placement tests. We require English, math, and religious courses, and language courses while on campus. I'm not 100% sure if placement tests are offered, but if you shoot me an email, I'll be able to get an answer for you, and I'll be sure to drop that in a chat in a moment too. Someone submitted their application. Congratulations. They don't see a space for letters of recommendation. How influential are letters of recommendation and where do we supply those? your student should be able to work with your teacher or your counselor to get that set up. Or the teacher can email that letter of recommendation to us directly and we'll be able to add it to the student's file. Our email is admission@jcu.edu, and my personal email is btorrento@jcu.edu. So letters of recommendation can be emailed there directly. And there's a section in a Common App where you should be able to add on docs and have folks basically request documents. But your student can start by asking their counselor if there's a separate process for that too. All right. Now, someone asked what an average SAT score of a students accepted to JCU is. We don't currently track average SAT scores as we only use SAT scores to determine merit eligibility and admission eligibility. So that is something that we only use SAT if it'll benefit a student. So that does change year to year. But if you shoot me an email, I can get you an exact range too. Someone's mentioning that they're going through the athletic recruitment process and asking if that'll affect the application decision. I'm not certain on that, but if you reach out to your admission counselor and your coach, you'll be able to get more information on whether that'll be the case or not. Alrighty, folks. See. And I'll answer this last question as we're over time. Someone's asking if you can get the highest scholarship if you apply only with grades and not test scores. Yes, you can. Merit scholarships, again, as we mentioned, if your SAT or ACT score will negatively impact your opportunity to be given a certain scholarship, whether it's the highest available or the standard one available, we will not use that test score. So keep that in mind. You're still able to receive that scholarship if you only applied for your grades and not your test scores. So you're welcome to apply test optional, and that will not negatively impact that. But aside from that, though, thank you again for your time tonight. Please remember to keep us in the loop. I'll go ahead and drop all of your admission counselor information in a second here. So on this page here, you'll be able to meet your admission counselor and you'll be able to see exactly everyone's email. So for example, the first counselor you'll see here is Mike Engelbrat. So if you go to St. Ignatius High School, you'll see his email there. You can reach out to him. Kristen Amendola, she oversees our Ashtabula and Lake counties and greater Erie area of Pennsylvania. And as you see there, you'll be able to see the individual schedule of meeting links for each of these counselors. So just take a look at that so you're aware of what sections you're overseeing as a whole, and you'll be able to get those questions answered. But thank you again for your time tonight. Have a great evening and go Blue Streaks. Thank you so much.